The galaxy had rules. Unspoken, yes, but rules nonetheless. Every civilization that clawed its way to the stars understood them instinctively, the way a child understands fire before ever touching it. You did not bomb civilian colonies. You did not poison terraformed worlds. And above all else, you did not touch the humans when they were quiet. The Vreth Dominion did not care about rules. The attack on Callisto Station came at 0300 hours, ship time. No warning. No declaration of war. The Vreth fleet dropped out of Darkfold travel like a fever dream, 17 warships, sleek and black as a wound in space, and simply erased 17,000 people from existence in 11 minutes. Families. Scientists. Children born in low gravity who had never felt real soil beneath their feet. Gone. The signal reached Admiral Darian Voss 3 hours later, aboard the UNSC Relentless Horizon, currently docked at the edge of the Kepler expanse for what was supposed to be a routine resupply rotation. He was drinking bad coffee and reviewing shipping manifests when his comms officer went pale as lunar dust. He only had to look at the man's face once. Battle stations, Voss said quietly. He didn't raise his voice. He never did. Get me every available vessel within 6 light hours. And someone wake up Kale Vera. There was a pause. A very deliberate pause. Sir, his second-in-command, Commander Sarah Nakamura, said carefully. You want us to wake Vera? That's what I said. Another pause. Shorter this time. Nakamura had served under Voss for 9 years. She recognized the particular stillness that had come over him, the way a deep ocean goes still before the pressure from below pushes something monstrous toward the surface. Yes, Admiral. Kale Vera was not officially on the UNSC roster. He wasn't unofficial either. He existed in a category that most military bureaucracies preferred not to name, filed somewhere between classified asset and necessary catastrophe. He was 61 years old and built like the universe had made him out of old iron and bad decisions. His left eye was a military-grade optical implant, matte black, always scanning. His right eye was original. Brown. Warm, even. That was the one that frightened people most, because it looked like it understood them. He was the last licensed beast handler in human space. Not because the license was hard to get. Because the other handlers were dead. When Nakamura's people found him, he was in the Relentless Horizon's Sub-Level 9, a reinforced compartment that wasn't on any of the ship's official schematics. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor in the dark, eyes closed, and the sound coming from deeper in the compartment was rhythmic, enormous, and patient. Like breathing. Like something planetary breathing. Vera, Nakamura said from the doorway, unwilling to step inside. His brown eye opened. I already know, he said. Callisto. How? She knows. He tilted his head toward the dark. She felt them die. Nakamura did not ask who she was. Every human above a certain clearance level knew. They simply preferred not to think about it. The Admiral is requesting your services, Nakamura said, keeping her voice professional, keeping her spine straight through sheer force of will. Kale Vera unfolded himself from the floor and stood. He was not an impressive man to look at, not the way soldiers were impressive, all uniform and posture. He looked like a man who had spent decades in proximity to something vast and untamable, and had absorbed some of it. Gravity seemed slightly stronger around him. The Vreth did this, he asked. Yes. He nodded once. Then he turned to the dark and said something in a language that wasn't in any linguistic database, something low and resonant, with too many harmonics for a human throat to produce cleanly. It vibrated in Nakamura's back teeth. The breathing in the dark changed. It became something else. Something that made Nakamura's hindbrain scream, very quietly and very persistently, run. Tell Darian we're ready, Kale said. The Vreth Dominion's High Fleet Marshal Auric Vaughn received the human response transmission 12 hours after the Callisto strike. He had expected outrage, diplomacy, perhaps threats, to be weighed and discarded. Humans were emotional creatures, all the intelligence profiles agreed. They would howl and scramble and eventually negotiate from a position of grief, which was the weakest position of all. What he received instead was Admiral Darien Voss, sitting alone in a very plain chair, in a very plain room, with no flags or insignia behind him. Just a man. Looking at the camera the way a closed door looks at you. Marshal Auric Vaughn, Voss said. I'm going to say this once. Withdraw your forces from every human-adjacent system within 48 hours. Surrender the fleet commanders who authorized the Callisto operation. And pray, to whatever it is your people pray to, that I haven't already made a different decision. Auric Vaughn laughed. His advisors laughed. The transmission was played across the Dominion's command network and laughed at by 200 senior officers who had, between them, conquered 47 civilizations. 48 hours passed. The Vreth Dominion did not withdraw. They came out of Darkfold at the edge of the Vreth home system. Not the human fleet. The human fleet was already engaging the Dominion's border forces, and doing it with a cold, methodical fury that the Vreth military analysts would later describe, in their final reports, as inhuman in its precision. Voss had deployed his ships like a man solving a math problem, emotionless and absolute. But something else came out of Darkfold. One vessel. Enormous. Older than anything the Vreth sensor arrays could categorize, its hull a patchwork of human engineering and something older, something organic, that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. And then the hull opened. Not broke. Not deployed. Opened, the way a hand opens. What emerged had no name in Vreth language. Their sensor arrays attempted classification and simply stopped, returning only an error state. It was too large. It was too alive. It moved through vacuum the way a thought moves through a sleeping mind, without friction, without logic, with total intent. Kale Vera's voice came over the open channel, calm as deep water. She remembers Callisto, he said. Every one of them. She holds grief differently than we do. Longer. Heavier. Auric Vaughn's command ship went silent. You cannot be serious, someone on his bridge whispered. Humanity keeps its monsters on a very short leash, Kale continued. Admiral Voss is a short leash. I am a shorter one. What you are looking at is what happens when we decide the leash was a courtesy. The creature turned. Slowly. The way a mountain range might turn if mountains had intent. The first Vreth warship it touched simply ceased. No explosion. No debris field. The sensors showed its presence, and then they showed its absence, and there was no moment between the two. Auric Vaughn broke 17 standing military protocols in the next 4 seconds. He opened every channel he had. We surrender, he said. We surrender. Tell her, we surrender. The ceasefire negotiations lasted 6 days. The Vreth Dominion agreed to every term. Every single one. Without counter-proposal, without delay, without the usual diplomatic theater that galactic politics ran on. They signed documentation they hadn't read. They transmitted access codes to systems they'd defended for centuries. The galactic community watched with a particular kind of silence, the silence of species who had always known, abstractly, that humanity was different, but had never quite been forced to look directly at the shape of that difference. Ambassador Leary's of the Ethon Collective, one of humanity's oldest allies, said it best in a private communiqué to her government. We always knew they had dangerous weapons. We forgot that the weapons have handlers. And we forgot what the handlers have behind them. Admiral Darien Voss stood at the viewport of the relentless horizon, watching the Vreth fleet disperse. Kale Vera stood beside him. They were quiet for a long time. She's settled? Voss asked. Resting, Kale said. She'll grieve for a while. That's normal. Voss nodded. Outside, the stars were very old and very patient. I didn't want to use her, he said. I know. I want them to understand that. The Vreth. Every other civilization watching this. He turned from the viewport. His voice was still quiet, still even, still exactly the voice of a man who had never needed to shout. We didn't do this because we're strong. We did this because they made us remember what we keep caged. Kale looked at him with the brown eye, the warm one. The one that understood. They'll remember, he said. They always do. Voss picked up his coffee, cold now, long forgotten. Good, he said. Let them. In the annals of the Galactic Compact's historical record, the Callisto incident is listed under a single classification code, unprovoked stimulation of a Tier 1 apex species. The footnote reads, do not repeat. There is no Tier 2.